Luke Hughes' injury strikes a blow to the Devils' plans to start the season as rookies are taking the ice all around the NHL while veterans are trying to make a case for themselves to stay in the league. Plus, we have actual, rookie games to talk about this weekend. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers. I'm here every Friday with Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get the latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. As I just mentioned, Gil, tough start to rookie camp for the New Jersey Devils. And I know he's not a rookie, but it will impact everything going on there. Luke Hughes out 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, I guess if there's a silver lining for the Devils, better in September than in, let's say, March or April. But yeah, I mean, here is a Devils team that couldn't overcome the injuries that hit them last year. And now, they've made so many moves and they looked like they were primed and ready to be a contending team in the Metropolitan Division and in the Eastern Conference. And then you lose one of your best, if not your best players before the season even starts for 6 to 8 weeks. It is definitely a blow to the Devils. I mean, the old saying in sports is next man up, but it's going to be very, very difficult to replace the productivity that Hughes gives you.
Yeah, and it was an off-season training injury, so it's like you can't even blame a game for it. That's what's also more difficult, I think, when it's something like that. But obviously, the Hughes brothers together is a huge part of why the Devils were selected to be part of the Global Series to open up the season, and so he's going to obviously miss that in early October, it seems like. So that is not going to be great for that trip overseas as well. But hopefully he gets back quickly and all is good to go for him as soon as possible for the Devils' sake, that is. Meanwhile, over in Utah, Tisha Ginla, still getting used to saying Utah.
Yeah, it'll take a little time.
Yeah, so they are starting their rookie camps. He is going to be held out of their preseason tournament for precautionary reasons, but he's going to start up during training camp. So, seems like it's a minor lower body injury here, but again, first big draft pick for the new club. You want to see him out there as quickly as possible. It is also hard to get acclimated when you're not out there.
Yeah, it certainly slows down the learning process and the adjustment period, and you don't want to see that. But again, if it's going to happen, I'd rather it happen now than in the middle of the season or down the stretch drive. But Utah and their fans got to be disappointed.
Yeah, I think it's got to be tough for that because their first games and everything. He's the guy that most people are there to see because he is their first draft pick, and with his pedigree, I think that was a big deal. So hopefully, again, everything is going well with him. I think some of the other big rookies starting their careers right now. Macklin Celebrini, this year's first overall draft pick for the San Jose Sharks. Man, he is having the time of his life, and he is getting ice time, so it's all good news, knock on wood, for him, and it seems like he's very popular, he's having, a lot of success, in the rookie camp so far, and he is somehow going to be living with Joe Thornton, which I think is potentially the greatest rookie living. I know like Joe Thornton's retired, but like, rookie housing that has ever existed in the history of the NHL.
Yeah, it's up there, and do they need a separate room for Joe Thornton's beard? I mean, that's the other question. But I mean, yeah, look, all joking aside, there is no doubt that he could learn a lot from being with Joe Thornton about how to be a professional, how to prepare for games, how to deal with the rigors of training camp. There's so many little details that you could learn from being with, one of the best players of the last couple of decades. It's a good move. I like it. It's probably saving a couple of bucks while he looks for a permanent place while he's at it. But I think it's one of those things that will definitely benefit the Sharks and the players, really.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think that it's it's good to see that they have a good system in place for him and a mentor in place for him of that caliber. And I think that will only benefit him and the Sharks. And I'm looking forward to seeing Joe Thornton in the arena, like cheering him on, like bringing the kids and
Yeah, yeah. My only question is Will Smith jealous? I mean,
well, yeah, well, that is true. Where's Will Smith
where's
living?
Will Smith staying? It's like,
Yeah. As far as some of the other rookies, starting to make an impact here, I think you look at Cutter Gauthier in Anaheim. He did get in one game, I believe, last year. So he has like a little bit more experience than maybe some of the other rookies do because he's been around the team a little bit. But he's certainly going to be somebody that people are going to be looking at very closely in these rookie games.
no doubt, and obviously, his development is very important to a rebuilding franchise like the Ducks. So you know, like you said, all eyes on him. This is his second go round, so hopefully, he has a better idea of what to expect, and you want to see progress in year two over what you saw in year one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the team that he, in theory, was going to play for, my Philadelphia Flyers, had their own first day of rookie camp, and I was lucky enough to attend. Of course, all eyes on Matt Bay Mitchkov, and there was a big crowd there for a Thursday. I will tell you, of fans. It was really cool to see. He looked really good out there. Just the effort and the work ethic is very apparent. The big thing that happened with him at camp was he did attempt a Michigan in front of John Tortorella, which I don't think went over very well.
Yeah, I would want to see the look on Torts' face when that
I
was
did see the look on
that
Torch's face, and it did not go over.
was not well received. Huh?
It was not. You never know. Maybe he was reacting to something else. You can never say for sure, but it seemed as though there was a visceral reaction to
Now,
it.
did he score on the play?
No, he did
Okay.
not.
And if he would have, do you think the reaction would have been different?
Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that's about as optimistic as you could be under those circumstances with
Yeah,
Torts.
he did score in other attempts, but yeah, that was a certainly a moment at Flyers camp. But he is working really hard on his English as well. spoke a little bit of English at the press conference, so that was good to see. But yeah, so a lot of rookies are making a huge impact at their camps already. We'll see if any of them get involved in roster battles as rookie and training camp continue. We'll talk about some of the rookie tournaments later in the show, but in the meantime, we've got some veteran news to talk about, the other end of the spectrum age wise in the league. And we are going to do that coming up next. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NHL Prospects podcast. Locked On NHL Prospects provides you with year-round coverage of the future stars of the NHL, the draft, team prospect pool analysis, and so much more. It's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Gil, we had a decently significant week of contract signings this week. Obviously, the Adam Larsson deal was the biggest one of the week, right?
Yeah, that was up there for sure, and an important deal for the Seattle Kraken. They have got to be happy to have Larsson locked up 4 years, an average annual value of $5.25 million. The deal being announced on Tuesday, and look, he's entering the last year of his existing contract, so he will now be in Seattle through the time that he turns 36. The new deal doesn't kick in until 2025, 2026.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about this contract and thinking about like all the contracts that we've talked about over this offseason is something that they talked about at the NHL kind of media day they had with some of the veterans. They had like all the big photo shoots and stuff, and Bill Daly was there, and the discussion came up about the no income tax states
Hmm.
and if they have an advantage signing players. And so then you think Adam Larsson, like that's a really good deal for him, and there's no income tax in the state of Washington. And you look at the teams, without income tax and recent Stanley Cup winners, well, Vegas, Florida, Tampa Bay, like, is there a correlation there? Maybe not. Maybe it's a coincidence. But
Well,
uh, will like contracts like Adam Larson's, which is it's a mid-level contract, don't get me wrong, but it packs a bigger punch in the state of Washington.
well, he gets to keep more of it. So yeah,
Yeah,
obviously, I mean, a $5 million contract in the state of Washington is not going to be worth the same in the player's pocket as a $5 million contract in New Jersey or in New York. So yeah,
right.
there are issues there that do not make the playing field equal. And obviously, Canada has a higher tax rate, generally speaking, than the United States. So you got to sort of figure out all of these little nuances. But I guarantee you this, every player agent around the league is very aware of the tax ramifications of signing with any of the 32 NHL teams.
Yeah, and I think, in some cases it's significant, in some cases it's not.
Right.
But or there's like the other factors very much outweigh that. But Bill Daly was talking about how, yeah, it's an issue, but what's the solution? Like, is there really one? Not really. So it's just something that you got to put on the back burner a little bit and maybe brainstorm a solution. But the Larson contract made me think of that a little bit, just because he's getting more bang for his buck, even though it's not a high end deal in the league. It's a mid tier league, and I think those are the guys where it has a bigger impact
Yeah.
on their lives. So just something to think about out there. In the meantime, Nick Robertson also signed a 1 year deal with the Leafs. Could mean something, could mean nothing. They could trade him tomorrow, but
Yeah.
at least the contract is signed, right?
Yeah, he has signed a 1 year, $875,000 contract, and yet still a lot of speculation that he is more likely to start the 2024-2025 NHL season somewhere else and not in a Maple Leafs uniform.
Yeah, and then more chatter, direct from the source though, on the Sidney Crosby contract extension negotiations. He said that he's pretty optimistic about it, but that it could even happen, at training camp this year. And it's at the very least will come well before the end of next season.
Yeah, and look, between you and me, and we both cover metropolitan division teams, we have seen a lot of Sidney Crosby over the years, probably
Yeah.
more than we would like to have seen. But
Are you sure you don't want to go to Southern California for your retirement, Sid?
so it's warm, it's nice. It's
Yeah.
all joking aside, could you imagine him in a different team's uniform? It would be very difficult to picture as a hockey fan, Sidney Crosby not suiting up for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
No, it's gonna happen. It
It's
it
going to happen.
absolutely will.
Exactly.
So, it's just a matter of time there. And then continuing our sort of look at veterans at the other end of the spectrum, this is the time of year where a lot of guys sign PTO contracts to try and get one more shot of making an NHL team. In some cases, they end up with deals, but not a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it's probably less than 50-50, and sometimes you end up with a minor league deal, which is
Hmm.
better than nothing, I guess, if you want to continue to play professional hockey. But better to have a PTO than to be sitting at home once training camps open up. So I understand, what the reason that a player would go for it.
Yeah, and the Flyers did that with Artem Anisimov for one season, where he had a PTO, didn't make the roster, but then he signed a minor league deal for the remainder of the season, and was a really good mentor, honestly, to the prospects down in the AHL. And I think it was good for everybody involved for the 1 year.
Yeah, it can be a win-win even if you don't make the NHL. But again, most of these guys are kind of trying to keep their careers going, and we'll see how many of them will be successful.
Yeah, so Max Pacioretty signed one with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I feel like some of the guys that are signing these PTOs, it feels like they just started playing hockey like yesterday, and now they're in PTO territory. So it's mildly upsetting to me just from an aging perspective. But
Yeah,
yeah, um, I think it's an interesting choice for him.
it is. And, his agent, Alan Walsh, basically tweeted out that he expected him to sign for a full season with Toronto before the season starts. Of course, the Maple Leafs right now officially only have a little more than $400,000 in cap space with 22 players on their roster. So, whether it's Robertson or some other move, if they want to add Max Pacioretty to the actual NHL roster for opening night, they're going to have to free up a little space.
Tyson Berry signed a PTO with the Flames. And I think, honestly, of any of them, that one sounds like the one with the most potential here.
Yeah, and Barry, he's on the quote unquote wrong side of 30, but he's only 33. It's not like
Yeah.
he's like 38 or 39, and he still should have some hockey, good hockey left in him. Had 15 points in 41 games last year with the Predators. And the way the Flames roster is set up, I could see him making the team.
Yeah, I mean, what do the Flames have to lose at this point?
Not much. Not
Yeah.
much.
Tyler Yamamoto signed a PTO with Utah, and he's just a guy that's never made it work. And he's going to try again at this point.
Yeah, he's already 25. He's not like a prospect anymore. Maybe it's his lack of size that's kind of holding him back, but
Could be.
he's a guy who just has not been able to put it together and be successful yet at the NHL level.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that could play on an AHL contract, and he's just kind of choosing not to because he's kind of an NHL or bust sort of guy.
Yeah, I don't blame him for wanting to exhaust all of his opportunities to play in the NHL before becoming that mentor, veteran AHL kind of a guy. We'll see if he's able to stick and sign with with an NHL team this year.
And then Pierre-Edouard Bellemare signed a PTO with the Avs, which I think is a good spot. He's familiar with the organization, and he's just a great guy and a good veteran leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the tough part is finding room on that roster for him to play, but it's a great spot if he can make it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we are going to have our first weekend ahead in a very long time. Excited to do that. We're going to talk about all the rookie tournaments around the league coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with quality candidates fast. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
So, usually during the regular season, every Friday, we have this weekend ahead segment where we preview the action. And it's been a while since we've been able to do it. We've got rookie tournaments coming up all around the NHL. Most of them start today. A couple of them start on Saturday, or they're just one day because there's only a couple of teams, but very exciting to see all of them. We talked about Macklin Celebrini earlier in the show, and he will be part of the big tournament for all the teams out west and in California that is going on. Excited to see that one get going.
Yeah, it's a big tournament. The 2024 rookie face-off. You have the Sharks, the Ducks, the Avalanche, the Kraken, the Golden Knights, and making their very first appearance on the ice in any way, shape, or form, the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah, so that is, I think, probably the one that has the most eyes on it this year, because it is like one of the bigger ones, but also some high end prospects there. Another big one is the Sabres hosting the Prospects Challenge. They've got the Bruins, Devils, Pens, Blue Jackets, and Sens at the Harbor Center in Buffalo. And I love that rink, man. It's a great spot for this tournament.
Yeah, it is, and you've got some important prospects in that tournament as well. It runs from Friday through Monday, and again, just each one of these tournaments for the fans of their respective teams, you're just whetting everyone's appetite for hockey.
Yeah, and then the big Southern Showcase. That's what I'm calling it because you've got the Hurricanes, the Panthers, the Lightning, and the Preds. And the Preds are hosting it this go around. I love this whole like all the non-traditional markets in one rookie tournament option.
Yeah, kind of fun, and again, Nashville is the only Western Conference team in here, so they're not like a traditional rival of these other teams, but it's nice little geographic matchup, and it'll really provide some of these rookies an early opportunity to impress the coaching staff.
Yeah, and Canada kind of divides itself. So you have the Young Stars Classic in the West with the Flames, Oilers, Jets, and Canucks. That is in Penticton, BC, Friday through Monday. So that's the big one. But then on the eastern side, we have just the Leafs and Habs do their own thing on Saturday and Sunday.
And that's such a great traditional rivalry. I can't wait to anytime the Leafs and the Habs are on the ice together, it's something special. I'm looking forward to seeing that, even if it is just the prospect showdown.
Yeah, and then you have your Midwestern option with the Tom Carver's Prospect Showcase. That's your Wild, Blackhawks, and Blues tournament.
Yeah, fun one. It's up in Maryland Heights, Missouri, and should be an entertaining one right there.
Yep, and then the remnants of the Traverse City tournament. Most of those teams left and went to other tournaments, but you have the Dallas Stars and Detroit Red Wings who are going to have a face-off. And then you also have the Flyers and Rangers that have a rookie series that will be Friday night and Saturday night in Lehigh Valley, the home of the Flyers minor league team.
Yeah, so just checking, are the Islanders the only team not participating in any of these tournaments?
I mean, looks like it.
No comment.
Yeah, somebody's got to make a phone call to Lou about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so it should be a really good weekend of action. Lots of opportunities to see the rookies play. Some of them will be battling for roster spots. Some of them will be going back to junior teams. But again, a good opportunity to see a lot of the recent draft picks. Most of these, the teams like will sometimes stream them on their websites, or it'll be on YouTube or something like that. So even if you can't make it in person, there should be plenty of opportunities for you to see it.
Yeah, hockey is back. We are starting the 2024-2025 season this weekend, and I am really excited to see players back on the ice in NHL uniforms and see some of the prospects do their thing.
Yeah, and then next weekend we'll be previewing some preseason games for the big kids. So that'll be a lot of fun to talk about. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of NHL news between now and then. And so we'll catch up on all of that next Friday. In the meantime, Gil will be back on Monday talking to a few of our hosts from around the Locked On NHL group with the latest and greatest going on their teams. Are you going to talk to the Devils host about Luke Hughes? Maybe, could be. We'll see. Anyway, that'll do it for today's show. Thanks so much for making Locked On NHL your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On NHL Prospects podcast covering the future stars of the NHL all year long. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great weekend, everyone.